Canada, Australia. Is there a difference? I doubt it. But you may find out there is a difference. And I don't know about that much of a difference. Hello, fucked it up. Hello everyone. That was a perfect read.
That was
I'm
excellent.
Jim Jefferies. I don't know why I always go British for that. I always change my accent to slightly British. Canada, Australia. Is there a difference? There is a difference. I know the difference. It's maple syrup, and that's it.
Yeah,
that's it.
true.
That's the only difference. That's the only difference.
You panicked there.
Why? It was a bit of comedy. Having a bit of a laugh.
All on purpose.
Yeah, speaking of comedy, the president got the COVID. He's got the COVID.
This will be out.
We found out today, but this is like...
Yeah, so we found out yesterday.
Yeah,
That's when this.
Now, I don't wish death upon anybody, so I hope he gets better. The problem I have with him getting COVID is I don't see how this is bad for him in any way.
Yeah.
In any way. The only way it's bad for him is if he dies. If he dies, it's bad. That's bad.
Is it bad though? Because I feel like
That's bad for him.
I feel like for him that might be like
It's true. Well, actually,
very bad for the
It's
person
like-
that dies.
Yeah, very bad for the person
I
who
don't know.
dies.
It'd be like the sweet release of death. He
Yeah,
can't
jail might be
possibly
worse
want to
for
live
him.
now after.
No, I
bullshit.
don't wish death upon people. But the thing is, if I look at it this way, if he gets it, he has no symptoms and he's fine, he'll go like this. Oh, there's nothing wrong with
See,
it.
it
You
was a
get a
hoax.
cough. It's a little bit of a cough. Let's go back to work. Right? He'll do that. And if he gets really sick, he'll get sympathy and he'll get voted in. The sweet spot is
I don't
he
think he'll
goes
get
into
sympathy.
intensive care and he's fine.
People that are listening to this already know the answer, though.
I
Yeah,
know.
that's
It's
true.
like a riddle wrapped up in a mystery, wrapped up in an enigma.
And a piece of bacon.
It's like those episodes that we recorded before we really figured out the format, and we did one on pandemics, guessing what we thought was going to happen with this, and were we fucking wrong.
We never released that one.
I know we never released it
that one.
because we
Yeah.
were already so fucking
have-
wrong.
It's because Forrest was so racially charged in that one.
We're like, how many people?
We had, why are you farting? Anyway, so
yeah, I remember we were joking. How many people will die? We're like 70,000, and it turned out to be 200,000.
No, we guessed low. The lowest
Yeah.
guess was like 6,000. I think the highest thing we guessed was 13,000 deaths
Oh,
from
really?
this. Yeah, we were so fucking off base.
Yeah,
so
oh,
I think
really?
we never
Was it?
released that. Yeah.
No, we never released. We have 3 podcasts we never released. The first one was just us trying to do some version of this.
doesn't
on pandemic.
COVID sound like a porn company?
Yeah. Yeah, it does. Like Avid.
Yeah, Avid
yeah.
COVID.
There was another one with earthquakes. Do you remember
Yep.
that one?
Oh yeah, the earthquake guy.
And we did one with
He
Whitney
shook
Cummings.
the world. We did one with Whitney Cummings when we first started. It was about marriage or something like that.
But we
And,
still didn't have the format down.
We'll bring Whitney back.
Yes.
Whitney's
Yeah.
a friend of the show. When I say friend, a friend of mine. I don't know if she listens to the show. If you're listening, Whitney, hello, Whitney.
Hello.
How are you
I
up
don't think
to?
she listens.
A very highly successful podcaster, Whitney Cummings. There she is.
We'll bring it back.
There she is.
There she is.
Throw her up on the screen.
Big fan of Whitney. Very nice lady, friend of mine. There you go. Now I'm going to list off the podcasters I don't like. We don't have enough time. Is there any thing that any segment you've got there, Jack? You got
Yeah.
something on your computer?
Got a new
What
segment.
do you got?
New
I don't
segment.
even know if you have an Apple computer. You've covered the Apple. You've put a sticker over it. Probably when you worked on my show, the Jeffrey Epstein show, the Jim Jeffries show, and
We don't talk about me working on the Jeffrey Epstein show.
you worked on he worked.
We
on
just
that.
did.
He did. He
Yikes.
worked on that.
I'm
He
telling you, we
worked on-
don't talk about
Don't
it.
put it on the don't put it on the
Yeah,
resume.
he was the girl wrangler.
I drove them all away.
Yeah.
Can you imagine how bad Jack would be at recruiting women for a
on,
fucking
guys.
sex
Yeah,
trafficking ring?
no. There could have been a lot more crimes if Jack wasn't the girl wrangler.
Come on, there's an island. Why don't you come with me?
Yeah.
There's no sex involved. Come with me.
Jack walks up to him like this, hi, and they go, no.
No, but you even know how to say it.
Yeah,
Nah,
but
I
you're
don't care.
standing awkwardly, no.
I'm working on the posture.
Remember when you taught Jack how to lean?
Yeah, that was.
Oh God, it was awkward. We told
I have a
Jack,
video of that.
when you go up to a girl in a bar, just lean against the bar.
Yeah, that was the
You're
key.
a casual guy. you're a airy, you're a free spirit. Just lean against the bar like they don't matter. And then he went up and punched the girl, and went, I think I've done it wrong.
No, it was
I
like
freaked out, guys.
The tip, The tip was you can use the bar to relax and kind of lean on it and do kind of thing. And I showed you a couple different versions on how to lean on the bar, and you lean on the bar like you were made out of wood.
Yeah, the guy does not know how to relax.
The bar was too low. It was
You
like
were
at my knee.
your posture was
lean
so
on that.
erect.
He leant so badly that the bar pushed back and said, I'm not interested.
Bar was uncomfortable.
You got
Me too.
Me too'd by a bar.
I'm a dive bar, and this isn't for me.
I'm used to men with no teeth, but not you.
What's the name of the new segment?
So I forget what your pitch for was.
It wasn't a pitch. It was the name of the segment.
I call it. I still know about that.
No,
but,
that's nothing.
Well, then what did you come up with? Because I don't remember.
Now I do know about that. Maybe. Yeah.
Right.
And then you can have a song. Now I do know about that.
Maybe drove the Chevy to the levee, but I didn't know that.
So basically, what it is I'm going to quiz you on some questions from previous episodes to see if you still remember anything.
Fuck me. I had no idea about this. I thought we were going to do Comment World.
We've only done 23 episodes. You should know
This
all
is
these.
from the Bees episode with our expert Ted McFall, a beekeeper.
Yeah.
Yeah, who has no social media.
No social media.
Yeah, we'd
Good
promote
luck
him.
finding him.
Go to a field.
Yeah. All I can say about the guy is you can lean up against a bar properly.
Yeah,
Yes, he definitely
He knows how to
married.
lean on a beehive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first question: how do bees make honey?
Oh, for fuck's sake. I know my original answer was by rubbing their feet together.
I'd say I remember.
They
that
collect pollen and then they gangbang the queen. I think was the appropriate answer.
That's the wrong answer. Yeah.
That's what I said the first time.
too. And I used to
This segment should be called "Stuck in My Ways."
Jim will remember all his fake answers. They're not any of the real ones.
Unflappable opinions.
Yeah, it was something to do with gangbanging.
I guess. Do you guys remember?
They collect pollen and then they
All right, college
shove it
boy.
in a honeycomb, and then they I don't know.
They
shove
take,
it in a honeycomb.
Yeah.
They take
That's
nectar.
a euphemism if ever I've heard it.
Nectar.
They take nectar from a plant and then they chew on it for 30 seconds.
And they vomit it.
Then they spit it. They spit it into another bee.
Vomit it.
Bee's mouth. And
They
they
spit
chew
it into
on
another bee's face.
Yeah.
And then they
go,
chew on it.
Go make me money, bitch.
Yeah.
And then they just keep doing the chew, spit process.
Oh yeah, this
and
was
then-
the 2 girls 1 cup
Bee
version
spit,
of bees.
yeah.
And then
Yeah.
eventually it makes honey.
Wow, I don't want to eat honey anymore.
Yeah, I feel bad about calling my wife honey now. after I know what a violent crime it is.
It was worse when you spit in her face though. She didn't mind the honey part.
Hey, honey.
Hey, bee spit, I love you so much.
Good joke, Jack.
Crushing it.
Sometimes I have to flag them so people know it's him. Well done, Jack.
The invisible voice is me. Second question: how does a bee become a queen bee? I didn't remember this one.
Yeah, they put a ring on it. If you like it, then you should have put a ring on it.
Queen bee. Queen
Queen
bee.
bee, Queen bee. That's how they do it. No. It's what they do is they date the other bees for a while, and then when it doesn't work out, and he goes, I should say other people. She keys his car, and then pours all of his clothes into the garden and lights them on fire, and people call that empowering and not a hate crime.
That's accurate, right?
Yeah, that's right.
That's 100%. He's just a little bit off. It's when a baby bee is born. It's called a larva.
You didn't ask us if we knew it.
Yeah, you guys didn't jump in like you did, so I assume you didn't.
When a baby bee is born.
I didn't, but I just
Is
thought
this
I'd
all
throw that
about
out there.
bees? Like I thought you
it's
were going to
just
do like several episodes. We did.
No, well, we'll have this a recurring segment, but we do it by episodes, yeah.
So a baby bee's born, and then the worker bees feed that bee royal jelly, which is a
Oh, yeah.
special
jelly.
food.
That was the bee cocky part.
God damn it! I remember all these now.
Royal jelly.
and then the bee becomes the biggest bee in the.
I thought royal jelly was when you looked at Meghan Markle and went, "I wish I could be her."
That's a good one. I like that one. It's fun. You get new jokes.
Yeah.
Wait, how do I work it into my stand-up?
All right.
Now, do you remember the difference between a drone and a worker bee?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. A worker bee goes out and collects pollen, and a drone bee goes out and flies over people's swimming pools and take photos.
Bombs countries.
I remember this one actually.
Was it?
The worker? Yeah, is that they? the workers are all females.
Yes.
And they collect pollen. And the drones, the males, and they have sex with the queen.
That's it. And then they die.
Yeah, and they die in Jack's balcony.
That's it.
Remember, they're dying on Jack's balcony.
Yeah.
He goes, that fella there, I remember, he goes, that fella there has a drone. They're having a lot of sex above the balcony. And it turned out you're not having any sex.
I fantasize about having sex
I know
on
the
that
answer.
balcony.
I know the answer to the next question you haven't asked. It's because I piss in my pool.
That's true.
Did you have another question?
Yes, the last question I have is, why should you not eat bananas around bees?
Because they like the smell of bananas.
I remember this.
Or they
This-
hate the smell and
yeah.
it makes them attack.
It's close.
It's
I
like
remember
it
this.
gives them a fight or flight response, basically, and then they
Yeah.
attack.
I think about this one all the time now because when I was in Yosemite, we were like hiking and stuff, and there was bees, and I was like, "Do not have bananas in your backpack because that's the smell they give off to tell everyone like, hey, attack." Like,
I want to see Forrest like hiking, and somebody
Yeah.
pulls out a banana, and he's like, "No,
What are you doing? There's bees around
I
it.
guess just specifically, it's when a bee stings, it puts out a pheromone
Yeah.
that's like an alarm odor that lets the hive know they're in
Why
danger.
did you do air quotes for alarm odor?
I don't know. There's probably a fancy word for it.
Yeah, I haven't had sex in a long time.
What was the air quotes?
Farahome Amoda or whatever.
Pheromone.
People enjoy time with me.
All
There were
right.
air quotes there.
Well, that's good.
right.
Now we all relearned about bees again. How
Do
long
you-
do you think you remember those, Jim?
I don't know what we just talked about, man.
Do we want Jim to finally get to that story that he was?
No, we don't know.
Well,
We don't
I
know.
would have, but Forrest just farted.
We also don't have time for it though. That's the thing. What's this fart thing you're doing?
Just trying to change things up.
Why are you taking your headphones
I
off?
thought we just got into the next segment.
We are, but I gotta.
Let's introduce our guest. What do you
there
think?
you go. I got it. Okay, our guest today is Dr. Robert Alexander.
Hello, Doctor.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you. We're going to do a game called Judging a Book by its cover.
Do we have that
Do we have
song?
a
Okay.
jingle?
Oh,
we
yeah,
have a
we
jingle.
have a jingle.
I have to get approval, but we'll just use it for right now.
No, they gave it to us.
Oh,
They
yeah.
can't. They can't. This is public domain.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I am like a fucking lawyer when it comes to jingle.
I do have it in email that we are allowed to use it.
So this is a part of the show, Dr. Alexander, where Jim tries to guess what your field of expertise is just by asking yes or no questions. And a listener has made a new jingle intro for it.
Yes, no. Yes, no. Yes, no. Yes, no. Judging a book by its cover.
All right.
That was the sound of a book hitting the ground.
That was from
At the end, was that just the singer, like he ran out of breath?
Collapse.
getting exhausted by all your bad guesses.
Well, I tell you what, there are actual books with covers
Yep.
behind him. With one's got the White House on it. One's got something I can't read it, but it's got America, a map of America, and it's all red. And it's red. Ooh. I'm going to say that you're an expert in politics, American politics.
Okay, you're pretty close, but what specifically? You got to ask him yes or no questions.
Okay. Are you an expert in politics?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
That's not what we're talking about, though.
There's
Well, I mean,
red-
we are talking about politics, but specifically.
Yeah. Is your expertise in elections?
Yes.
All right. Are you an expert in elections?
But what about
Yeah,
elections in
specifically.
particular?
Oh, what about elections?
A specific part of elections.
This
This is the best he's ever done.
Yeah.
These
Yeah.
books definitely gave it away. The way
Yeah.
I gave it away.
It's fine. It's okay. That's it.
Do you control the line out the front?
No, like
Of all the
this
polling.
Colder, much colder.
in elections. Here, I'll give you a hint. Alaska 3. California.
The college thing,
The college thing.
College.
the college thing. Are you an expert in the college thing, man?
I am an expert in the college thing.
All right.
Electoral
First
College.
time.
The
Electoral College.
Electoral College.
He judged a book by its cover.
Yeah, he did. You literally looked at the books.
Yeah.
You got it.
He,
Yeah.
he literally looked at the book.
One of them is his book. I recognize it from what you sent us. Dr. Robert Alexander, he has a BA in political science from Ohio Northern University and a master's and a PhD from the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. He is a professor of political science at Ohio Northern University in Ada, Ohio, and is the founding director for the Institute for Civics and Public Policy. His Twitter handle is at ONUPROF. That's ONUprof. And his most recent book, Representation and the Electoral College, is available. It's from the 2018 Oxford University Press and was selected as an outstanding title by Choice Magazine. I'll mention the CNN thing later at the end there too that you're doing.
Now, I don't really get I get the Electoral College, but I don't really get it.
That's why we have him
figured.
on. Yeah.
Yeah, I know that you get, because I'm voting for the first time. I'm about to vote for the first time. I'll tell you how I'm going to vote. Not for Trump. I would vote for a fucking rabbit.
But there's other things to vote for too besides the
I know the propositions, and I'm voting for whatever Jack says is the right thing.
Yes.
So I will be voting for whatever a son of a millionaire Coke executive would vote for. So it's going to be fairly Republican, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's red all the way.
Yeah. I'm fucking healthcare. You Americans, back where I was from, we all got a stick, and that's how we fixed ourselves.
You got an upset stomach? Drink a Coke.
Yeah, drink a Coke.
Dr. Alexander, can you just tell
Brush
us
your teeth with Coke.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you came to be an expert in the Electoral College? Just a little bit about you, what background.
Yeah, sure. I'm a first generation college kid. My grandparents had no more than an 8th grade education, and along the way, when I went off to graduate school there in Knoxville, I ran across a professor who said nobody knows anything about electors, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit more. And so we started a project on trying to figure out who electors are. And eventually I started doing surveys of electors and found out all kinds of interesting information on them that actually ended up before the Supreme Court of the United States of America this past summer.
Yeah. That's another episode. What's that?
Yeah, the Supreme Court. Yeah,
No, the United States of America?
yeah. It's
Yeah,
a
there's
thing.
a bunch of states.
Okay, so we are going to ask Jim what he thinks he knows about the Electoral College. I'm going to prod him along with some questions, and then I'm going to keep some notes. You're welcome to keep notes too. And at the end of it, you're going to grade him on 0 to 10, 10 being the best on how accurate he was with regards to the Electoral College. Kelly's going to grade him on confidence. I'm going to grade him on et cetera. And today, if you score 0 through 10, but 11 through 20, her 21 through 30, emails.
I think the emails gave him COVID. I think that's what the emails were
He got a
saying.
virus.
Yeah. Computer virus.
It's just like a Norton antivirus thing, and he's just like, I've got COVID.
Yeah, Trump was looking at the wrong porn site. That's how he got the virus.
Yeah.
Becky Big Tits gave me COVID.
All right, Jim, what is the Electoral College?
It's each state is given a certain amount of vote spots. So the more you have in your population, the more you have vote type of things. And so I think like you got to have like a majority of these things. So like Hillary Clinton won the what's the word? The fucking
Popular vote?
The popular vote. She won the popular vote. More people voted for Hillary Clinton than voted for Donald Trump, but he won the Electoral College because he did these big rallies in states, and it turns out there's loads of white supremacists, and that's how you win.
White supremacy?
Yeah, white supremacy.
Okay,
That's how I won class president in 1992. It was in Australia. It was all just white people, but we felt very supreme.
How many electoral votes are there in total?
Fuck. Like 140.
140 total?
Yeah.
Okay. And then how many do you need to win? How much does a candidate need to win?
Oh, that's 71 then.
Okay. Checks out.
The
You're right.
majority, obviously.
Okay.
Logically, that's there.
How many?
Yeah, I know the gist.
There's numbers involved. But
Yeah.
how many times has the candidate that won the popular vote lost the Electoral College?
Throughout history.
No, just last.
No, but you're including like fucking like John Adams and shit.
Yes. Since the United
There's
States
only
became
been
I could
a
have
country.
said
There's only been
George
45 presidents.
Washington, but I wanted to show you that I knew what the second president was.
No, how many times has a candidate who won the popular vote lost the Electoral College, and can you name them? See how many you can name.
I'm going to say it's happened 12 times.
12 times.
Yeah.
How many do you think you can name out of the 12?
Hillary Clinton.
Okay.
She won it. I know that what's his name? The fella who had the bloody who's the guy who likes the environment.
You're almost there.
The internet.
You're almost there.
Gore.
I like how it's easy to find the one guy who likes the environment in politics.
Who was the Greek fella who wore the army helmet in the tank and they didn't like him anymore after
Dukakis?
Dukakis.
You think he's on that list?
Whacking a Dukakis.
Okay.
Put that in your Dukakis.
Okay.
Okay.
Dukakis. I'm going to say the bloke that was running against Lincoln, Joe Finkel.
Joe Finkel.
Joe Finkel's had a long career.
Joe Finkel always makes an appearance on this podcast.
That was a hotly contested election.
Just so you know, Dr. Alexander, Joe Finkel is an answer when Jim doesn't know anything. He throws out Joe Finkel. He's made about 5 appearances.
He walked on the moon.
Yeah, he walked on the moon. No, he
on the
didn't.
moon,
He looked at people from the window.
That's true. He was driving.
He was driving the plane.
Anyone else you can remember? Or there's 12, you said.
No. I've got some other ones. I'm going to say that. I'm going to say George Bush Sr. won the popular vote against Clinton, but Clinton won the Electoral College. How about that? I'll throw that out there.
Okay.
I've still got another 9.
No, you've said 5.
I said 5.
7. You said 1.
I'm going
Let's
to
go.
say,
Rapid fire.
I'm
Come
going
on.
to say
Quick.
that not Kennedy.
Just tell me the people they ran against.
I'm going to say Lyndon Johnson lost the popular vote but won the whole thing.
Okay, Johnson.
Yeah.
So whoever he ran against. All right.
Yeah.
I think we can move on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why would I know that?
I don't know,
That's
but
such a difficult
remembering the
question.
loser. Who
It's
does
fun.
that?
Yeah.
It's fun to watch you struggle. How are the electoral votes divided? Like, so how and then what like how is it divided by each state?
It's per population, right? So California has loads of them. New York has loads of them. Like the Republicans always win more states, but the votes are so big in the blue states that they sort of even up, type of thing. The
population,
and then you have like I think Florida.
So
I think Florida has like 13 or something like that, and that's why it's all. And then you get like fucking Delaware has 3 or something, So shittier states, smaller states.
Honestly, when do you think about Delaware? It's a state that like you hardly ever hear anything about.
I did a joke once about how I couldn't have sex with any of the Miss Californias or whatever. I said I could possibly get Miss Delaware. It was a joke I said once, and that joke was from maybe 11 years ago. And since then, 3 Miss Delawares have reached out to me.
Wow.
To go. What, you think you could get me? And I was like, definitely. You're
the one who messaged me. Of course I
You
can.
slipped into my DMs. If I knew, I would have gone. Oh, I could never have sex with Miss California, and then like just but I picked Delaware. These are horrendous looking women. Anyway, so
Yeah, there's nobody pretty in Delaware.
No.
Okay, so
Her name was Stumps.
what? There are several states with the least amount. Do you know what the least amount of number is in any of those states?
The least amount is 3.
3, and just name 1 or 2 states.
Rhode Island
Rhode Island
is a 3.
is a 3.
I'm going to not Ohio, Kentucky. I'm going to say South Dakota.
South Dakota, and who has the
North Dakota is rocking out with 12.
Oh, really? Okay.
Whoa. I'm moving there.
And who has the most?
I believe California.
And you know how many it is?
I believe it's like 26 or something. Like
26. Okay.
I'm going to sound like such a moron on this.
I'll tell you.
I had a
all the
political
answers.
talk show on TV.
No, but I will tell you this. The reason we're doing this specific topic is because we're getting closer to the election, and I don't think a lot of people know this, to be honest with you.
I don't know it.
I know a little bit about the Electoral College, but I don't know like a lot of the
I get the
specifics.
gist of the whole thing.
Yeah. I think a lot of people. So I thought
I
this
feel
would
like
be
it's
interesting.
designed for us to not understand how it works so that nobody really fights to get it eliminated.
There's certain states that you have to fight harder for because they got a lot of votes and they're swing states, and that's like Ohio and Florida. Is like the ones that you got to do that for.
All right, we're getting there. We're getting there, Doctor. We'll be there in a second. So I always like looking at our guests. Sometimes you can just see their face, like,
I got a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
He's got the gist.
I got the gist. I know the vibe.
The vibe, yeah. When did the Electoral College begin? And
I'm going to say after the Emancipation Proclamation. So that was 1976.
After the Emancipation Proclamation?
1976.
1976.
Shit's been so
yeah,
bad.
it was when the movie Shaft came out.
Well, I think it's in the Constitution before
Okay, so I'll give a real answer.
before slavery. So
I'm gonna say it was 1827.
okay. Do you know what amendment it's?
I know what an amendment is.
No,
yeah.
like there's an amendment that refers to it.
Oh, I don't know that.
Got it. Okay. How do electoral voters get selected, and do they get paid? So there's specific people that are the actual. Each one of those votes each state has, I'll tell you, is represented by an actual person. How do those people get selected?
Okay, well they're not. Everyone gets 2 senators per state.
Yeah, but these are electoral voters. These aren't the senators or the representatives.
Oh, how do they get? It would be a job interview process.
Yeah, Craigslist.
Yeah. It would be. You'd come in. Go. Look, I haven't been up to much. I'd like a job.
Fate of the free world.
What's this 10-year gap in the resume? Yeah, you could vote for the president.
Yeah.
Perfect.
COVID's been hard. I'd like to be an elector. So they get picked by the amount of donations they make to people.
Picked by donations.
Yeah, it's corrupt.
And do they get paid? Is there an incentive?
Of course they'd be paid. Yeah, they'd be paid something.
Okay, that's their incentive? Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
I'll give you a quick story. I worked for the Australian government during an election, right, where I had to count votes. I worked during the election, and they paid me, right? I want to put this out there. I was in charge of counting votes in Australia. 15! I was 15 years old. Now,
but it's just 1, 2, 3. It's not that hard.
I phone things in now. Okay. How much do you think I just wrote random numbers? There's 170 votes for the Liberals and 100 for the Labor.
We've seen his counting process on this podcast before.
He's good at counting.
I'm not going to say there's voter fraud, but there was when I was counting.
Just voter mistake.
Counter
Now,
fraud.
luckily, that the Prime Minister won by a landslide, so I really wasn't the deciding factor. But I wasn't the best electoral person to work on anything. They gave you lunch.
Oh, nice.
What happens if there's a tie?
Then the Supreme...
Is it possible for the tie?
Yeah, then the Supreme Court gets to decide, and that happened with Bush and Gore, and the Supreme Court gets to decide with their vote.
Okay. And then do you know what a faithless elector is?
That's a person, and like an atheist who elects things.
Jim.
Yeah.
So there's elector votes. They don't believe in God.
Yeah, they don't believe in God.
Okay. And have they ever affected an election?
People who don't believe in God.
Yeah. The faithless electors.
Sure.
Yeah. Sure. Okay. Are there any alternate systems that have been proposed, or is there any other way that
Well,
can't be elected?
the alternate system is, and they're trying to get this in now, is just using the popular vote and getting rid of the Electoral College completely. Other options that have been decided is put both candidates in one of those tanks where you throw a ball at the thing. It's called Dunk the Junk. And Dunk the Junk, yeah, that was a very popular option.
And everyone gets a throw?
Oh, yeah, we all get to have a throw.
It's like, it'd take a long time.
Yeah, we have to line
Lines
up.
are gonna be very
We're going to
long.
be so wet.
Yeah. But the problem is because the Republicans never win that way because the Democrats have all those Mexican pitchers who can really.
We do have most of the athletes.
It's not the Mexicans, it's Dominicans.
Yeah,
Dominicans have
Dominicans,
better pitchers.
yeah,
Cubans.
better Cubans
Mexican,
and-
there's a few pitchers.
There's a
but-
few pitchers. Yeah,
Dominican and
you
Cuba,
know
yeah.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
What I was doing there was racism.
Well,
Anyway, so
He got the gist.
I got the gist. I think Kelly's "we have the better athletes" was more racist. I think.
Why? I think statistically, when you look at sports right now, there are more athletes speaking out against the other side. Yeah. So
Okay.
I wasn't talking about race,
All right.
but we do have a lot of black athletes on our side,
And
they're pretty good.
and they're pretty fucking good at
But
sports.
I think they have the Tom and Gronk show. Tom and Gronk. Tom and Gronk. Voting in presidents. Tom and Gronk.
Okay. So, a couple more questions here. What are some, like, I don't know how this question, we'll just skip that. So what are controversies associated with, we can just talk about that. And I'm assuming you don't know I don't even know how to pronounce this. Like, is BAYH, Bay Seller Amendment? You don't know what that is.
Bi-seller.
Bi-seller.
Yep,
Do you know what the Bi-Seller Amendment is?
That's a hooker who can do your husband and your wife.
Wow, okay. We just, different topic. What are we going to do? And then to keep it
I
current,
have a husband and a wife, in case anyone caught that.
to keep it current here, Trump saying that the election is rigged,
Yeah.
et cetera, and things like that, all the rhetoric he's saying, how does that play into the Electoral College? Like, what are the problems that can be associated with that due to the Electoral College that people think might happen or could happen?
I'm not sure about that.
You don't know?
I don't know why he thinks the Electoral College is rigged, because it worked in his favor.
No,
So-
but by saying that, is there something he can affect in the Electoral College, or is it like flawless, basically? Is it,
nothing's flawless.
yeah. Okay. Good answer.
Yeah.
All right, we'll get the answer there because I think that's
Loophole.
important to like talk about with this. So, all right,
Forrest, you just have to love yourself.
all right, Dr. Alexander, thank you for waiting there patiently. How did Jim do 0 through 10, 10 being the best on the Electoral College?
He started out real strong,
Yeah.
and then he kind of gave up. I'll just be honest. He gave up.
It's
He
like
got worn down.
I was doing good in the election, and then I said, grab him by the pussy, and then I'm still gonna win.
Yeah. So, well, and then, you came back and you were a poll worker at one point. So that but then you said that, you were a fraudulent poll worker. So that wasn't so great. But generally speaking, on the Electoral College, it is a really complicated process. I would give you a 7.
Wow.
Whoa!
Professor gives you a 7.
And that's a 7 from California.
What about confidence, Kelly?
I'm going a 5 on confidence.
5.
That's a 5 from Ohio.
Yeah. I'm giving you a 0 on et cetera because you
That's
didn't say
fucking Florida for you.
You didn't say America is the greatest country in the world. You didn't say that to me.
Oh man.
Damn it.
America,
You don't say that every
number one
morning?
country.
I just learned the United States was a different bit.
Yeah. You got a total of 12, so you're her.
All right.
All right.
I'm with her.
Okay. So let's
And,
start.
I want to say I was grading on a curve.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
being
We
nice.
we noticed.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, Dr. Robert Alexander, thanks for being here, Ken. And so Jim said, ask him what the Electoral College was, that each state gets some vote spots, and mentioned popular vote versus Electoral College. Can you just tell us like what the Electoral College is and like why it came about, kind of?
Sure. Yeah. The Electoral College is indeed a process. It's not a place. He was right that, states get votes. It is a kind of a combination of the popular vote and this kind of representation on the basis of the Senate. So every state receives the amount of representation it has in the House, which is based upon population. So the more populated states get more electoral votes, but every state gets 2 Electoral College votes just on the basis of its statehood. So Jim was kind of hitting around at that. What that does, the fact that every state gets 2 electoral votes regardless of its population, is it provides more weight or more voting power to less populated states at the expense of more populated states. So the voting power of a citizen in Wyoming is much more powerful than one electoral vote in California.
Right.
Yeah, they always mention Wyoming. Wyoming's the state that always gets mentioned because that's like
I thought that was a town.
Just outside Utah.
It's a state. Well, there's like 900,000 people in the whole state, right?
Right. And they get 3 Electoral College votes. So
And 3 families.
they've got like 8 times the voting power than do voters in California.
That's I mean, Wyoming's big too. There's just nobody there. It's just like cowboys and yeah. So that's the controversy then, right?
So that's just giving the Republicans two votes.
Well, they get 3 in Wyoming because they get 2. Why do they get 3? Wait, they get 2 automatically for being a state.
Yep. And then the one representative is the lowest number of representatives you have in the House of Representatives.
So I was right that 3's the minimum.
Yeah, 3's the
There's
minimum.
yep.
So it's 2 per state, and then however many representatives you have in the House, that's the additional number.
Right. And so there's a handful of states that are at 3, like the Dakotas, North and South Dakota. You've got Delaware is another
Wow.
one.
Thank you.
Alaska is another one.
Alaska.
Yeah.
Yes, and Montana and Vermont
What
are
about
those states that have 3 electoral votes. And Washington, D.C. gets 3 Electoral College votes as well through the amendment process. They cannot have any more than the state that has the least number of Electoral College votes, but they do get 3 votes in the Electoral College.
Because they're not considered a state; they're the capital. You see.
Yeah, but there's probably more people in D.C. than Wyoming.
Let me throw one out here. Let's see if I get this right. Hawaii gets 5. Am I right?
Sure.
All right.
Is he right?
Aloha to all of our Hawaiian listeners.
does Puerto Rico have anything or the other territories?
The other territories do not. And that's one of the reasons why you're hearing a lot of chatter right now about Puerto Rico becoming a state, Washington, D.C. becoming a state. It's not Puerto Rico for the Electoral College, but also in the United States Senate, because the Senate, of course, also really overrepresents less populated states at the expense of more populated
But it will
states.
make things work. If they make Puerto Rico a state and they get 3 Electoral College votes, they will definitely go the Republicans, because they'll remember when Trump threw those towels.
Yeah, they did
They'll
love
never
the paper
forget that.
towels.
When he threw those paper towels, they went, "You bought my vote, my friend."
Yeah.
They soaked up all the flooding with those paper towels.
Yeah.
I'm looking at Wikipedia. Hawaii has 5 or 4. I'm looking.
They might have 4.
Yeah, 4. Yeah. All right, Jim. Just
I was just throwing it out there.
yeah. I'm just
Are they
looking at it.
counting all the islands?
No. Kauai gets 0. So if you're on Kauai, you just get to see George Clooney in the movie. Okay. So, and I asked him how many electoral votes in total. He said 140. How many to win? 71. What's the number?
He's off by a little bit.
Yeah.
But the logic was right. So there's actually 435 members in the House of
It's
Representatives,
a lot.
Yeah. You should know that from your
100 senators.
citizenship. Yeah.
100 senators. And so you add those together, that's 535 plus your 3 votes from Washington, D.C. So there are 538 total Electoral College votes, 270 for a majority.
I'm so ashamed. That was a question in my citizenship test that I got correct.
Wait,
That's
the
right.
votes? The Electoral College?
That was one of the questions I
Once
actually
you
got
take the
asked.
test, you're not supposed to
430,
remember the
whatever. And I
knowledge.
was like, fuck. That's how I become. Oh, no.
Jim became a citizen, what, 2 years ago?
2 years.
2 years
2 years ago.
yeah.
So this is his first election.
Congratulations.
My first election.
He
Yeah.
had to take a test and he's forgotten everything.
Yeah, and that was they give you 100 questions and they ask you 10 of the questions, and I think you got to get 9 of the 10. I got all my 10 questions right, and one of my questions was that, and I nailed it because it was one of the more difficult ones because it was 430 something, 435,
435, yeah.
right, 435, and yeah, I should have known that.
Yeah,
Then you just dump that right out as soon as you took the test.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
That's
no.
literally what
Yeah,
my students do.
There was lots of questions. Who was the first president? Who fucking knows? How would you know?
Yeah, how would
So
you know?
long ago.
There weren't cameras back
Yeah,
then.
it's
The
lo-
first
yeah.
president? George Washington, though.
What happened to Jesus
boy.
Forrest? Oh God!
Welcome to the
Are you
podcast.
a time traveler, dude?
Fuck it. Forrest
You
is
didn't know
coming.
that?
He never tells a lie.
You didn't know that it was George Washington?
I didn't.
Oh. Okay. Okay, I asked him I asked Jim how many times a candidate has won the popular vote and lost Electoral College. He said 12. And I asked him the name. He said Hillary Clinton, Al Gore, Dukakis, Joe Finkel, Bush Sr., Johnson. What's the correct answer?
You know, Finkel's right.
I'm kind of stuck on Dukakis and Johnson in the same sentence there, but
Yeah.
Yeah, put my Johnson in your Dukakis.
clearly something's going on there.
That sounds like my Google searches.
But actually, it's kind of crazy because it's 6. It's 6 times that it's happened, which is about 10% of all presidential elections. So the fact that Jim was throwing 12 out there is pretty insane, because most Americans would not think that it's happened very many times at all. And so that it's happened 6 times, it's a lot. It happened back in 1824. In fact, in that election, Andrew Jackson, he won a plurality of the Electoral College votes, but not a majority. He also won a plurality of the popular vote. That then moved into a contingency election into the House of Representatives, where John Quincy Adams came out on top in that election. So Jackson was pretty pissed and really came after him in 1828 with a lot of populism and all that kind of stuff. But so 1824, 1876, Rutherford B. Hayes versus Tilden.
It was on the tip of me tongue.
Yeah.
Rutherford B. Hayes.
Yeah.
He always talks about that one.
Did he win? Bro? Who's that guy?
No, Hayes was the president.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, and he earned the title Rutherfraud. A lot of people call him
That's
Rutherford B.
good.
Hayes.
Oh, Mark Maron's podcast. No, I'm not saying Mark Maron's a fraud. I'm just saying what the fuck. Okay, I'll shut up.
I don't know what you're even saying. What are you saying?
No, it's what the WTF.
Oh, yeah.
What
yeah.
the, for like now it means what the fuck, and now what the fraud.
What the fraud.
And I was just
Yeah.
saying that was
So Hayes and Jackson, or Hayes won.
And then we had Grover Cleveland in 1888.
Great name.
He got
we
beat
had-
by Cookie Monster.
No, Grover Cleveland won. Right? Then he was the president.
Yeah, he won.
that's what-
He won.
We had a president named Grover Cleveland. And then people were complaining about Barack Obama as a weird name. It's like, Yeah.
Then we had actually JFK. So John F. Kennedy, and this is a surprise to a lot of people, but Kennedy actually lost the popular vote in 1960 to Richard Nixon because there was a division of electoral votes in Alabama where over time, it used to be that you could, when you and I go vote, we're actually voting for these electors. And they don't typically appear on the ballot, okay? They used to appear on the ballot. And in that election in 1960, there were unpledged electors, and then there were electors that were pledged directly to Kennedy. Well, they split their votes. And those unpledged electors were actually voting for a Dixiecrat, a Southern Democrat by the name of Harry. You ready for this one?
Oh, that's what I call country music.
Harry Byrd. Harry Byrd was the candidate that they voted for. And so when you actually take a look at that election, Nixon won the popular vote in 1960, but lost the Electoral College. And then you're right with Bush and Gore, that guy with the environment in the year 2000. That election came down to 537 votes.
That's insane.
In Florida. So it was a super, super close election just there. And then, of course, in 2016, where Hillary Clinton gains about 3 million more votes than Donald Trump, but loses in the Electoral College.
Was that the biggest popular vote? Like of all the ones, that was the biggest gap, was Hillary Clinton?
Yeah, that was the biggest gap by far. And you know, one thing that you kind of talking about this, and you're looking at the public opinion polls and all, because it's a real possibility that could happen again in this election, that Trump could lose the popular vote but win in the Electoral College. And one thing I want to point out is that back in 2016, there were about 10 to 15% of voters that still hadn't made their minds up completely in the last week or so of the election. And they broke decidedly for Donald Trump. The reality is if about 40,000 people in just 3 states changed their minds, okay, which was 0.0008% of the votes cast across the country, Hillary Clinton would have won in 2016. So it was super, super close, much closer than what the Electoral College total looked like. And I'll explain that as well. You know, if you win a state by 1 vote for almost all of the states, there's only 2 states that are not like this. But if you win a state by just 1 vote, you get 100% of those electoral college votes. So it doesn't really reflect what happened in a state by state basis.
And who are the 2 states that aren't like that, and why?
Maine and Nebraska. So Maine and Nebraska have what are referred to as a district election. So they break it down by congressional district. If you win the congressional district, you win that electoral college vote. The reason that Maine and Nebraska moved to that style is no candidate was going to Maine and Nebraska when it was just a popular vote in those states. So Barack Obama actually won a congressional district in Nebraska in 2008. Donald Trump won a congressional district in Maine in 2016. So that's another kind of method that some people are looking at to kind of change how the electoral college process works. As you know, in California, nobody's going to California to campaign at all. If you broke it down by congressional districts, you would see a lot more campaign action after the conventions.
Now, this is off topic just a little bit, and I know Forrest has more questions. Now, in Australia, it is compulsory to vote. Everyone has to vote, and you go in there with your license and you sign you off, and you go to the school and you vote. And if you don't vote, they send you a fine. For when I was voting in Australia, it was like $60.
It's close. I think it's closer to 200 now.
Yeah, now that was 20 years ago.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Yeah.
20 years ago it was $60. So let's say it's $250 now, whatever it is, right? And so if you don't vote, they send you a bill. And now I had a period when I was living overseas where I was living in England and I still had to vote in Australian elections. And I refused to vote because I wasn't living in the country and I didn't know the policies of these people because I wasn't seeing it on my news. I hadn't read anything. So I thought it'd be irresponsible of me to vote. So I just took the fine. Plus I hate dealing with mail. And anyway, so is there a time that you could see where that could happen in America?
Or you can't even force people to wear masks in the middle of a pandemic in this country. So I do not see something like that happening. That American independence streak is awfully hard. And in fact, one of the things that you see here is instead of trying to get people to vote. You see a number of state governments trying to make sure that people can't vote or make it harder for people to vote.
Now, I consider myself a moderate. I have mostly left-wing views, but I have some right-wing views that I have. And one of my right-wing views is, and this might be unpopular to say, I think you should have to show up with your identification to vote. I don't understand this, like when they go, the Republicans are making people use their identification, that's bad against minorities and stuff like that. How the fuck else do we know that you're coming in and out with votes? And also, just you needed to get on, buy liquor, cigarettes, get on a fucking plane. Voting's a big responsibility. I think people should have to show some form of identification when they go into the polling booths. Is that bigoted of me? Can someone explain why I'm wrong or why I'm right?
The big argument would be that, there's a difference between just having identification and photo identification. Right. And the kinds of people that tend to not have photo identification tend to come from minorities and more impoverished areas. It's more of a middle class value. There's one of the reasons why that, most people in the United States would support having photo identification is it's a very middle class thing. Most middle class have photo ID. How do you not have, just like you say, how do you not have a photo identification? But if you go
you can't get into bars without it.
Yeah, but the impoverished communities aren't going to bars. They aren't flying on planes. They aren't driving cars. They aren't doing any of that stuff. They don't have access to that stuff regardless. So all of these things that seem really normal to you.
This sounds really weird. I know you're poor, but they're the fun things in life. Even when you're poor. I've been poor. I still went out to fucking bars.
No, but you haven't been this poor.
I don't think you've been that poor.
I've been that poor.
No,
I've been that poor.
I
was in massive amounts of debt and had zero money and was dossing on people's couches, homeless. Not homeless, but I was sleeping on people's couches. I was poor,
well, some homeless people don't have access to people's couches.
And I still found the time to get drunk every week.
Your priorities were different. You didn't have kids. You didn't have a job that you were working.
Okay, so working with
you're doing it based on your experience. But
it doesn't cost anything to get identification.
Yeah, it does.
Yes, it does.
What's to go down to the DMV and just get that photo?
First of all, it costs you to wait in line at the DMV, but it also costs money at the DMV to get.
But why would you wait in line to do an election? I don't want to sound bigoted. I really don't.
But we're explaining it to you, and you're fighting against us.
I know.
We're telling you the reason.
I still think.
I know, but you're wrong. I still
think you should get ID.
No. You can have that belief, but you have to understand that. What the professor is saying to what Dr.
I very rarely like agreeing with the Republicans.
I know, but you have to hear what we're saying. Is
I think your argument more so is against the system where that needs to be easily accessible to everybody regardless of their income level or anything like that. Because you think about for instance,
how do you believe that person is who they say they are when they go in to have a vote when they don't have ID? It's a simple question. There
are other forms of ID, like there's a EIN, which is how people get their pay their taxes and do all of that stuff. There are.
I agree with that. If they have their tax papers and stuff like that, they're things.
You can have, I don't know, you could have maybe a piece of mail. I don't know. What are the acceptable forms of ID that they accept?
I think you're kind of hitting some of those things, whether it be a bank statement, whether it be tax documents. I mean, and again,
so you have to have something. You have to have something. Yeah. Okay, well, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. Okay, that's fine.
And that's the difference between a photo identification and just an identification.
Right.
Yeah,
so if you have a signature that can connect with something, then we're good to go.
Yeah. For instance, like right now, they're making it illegal to fly if you don't have a real ID is a new thing or a passport. Yeah. And a real ID, I'm getting one now because I'm changing my identification because I just moved to a new house and I want to get that address in there since I, have the place since permanent. And to get a real ID, forget about it being a pandemic, just to get a real ID is a pain in the fucking ass. And I have modes of transportation. I have time to do it. I have money to go get it. And it's a pain in the ass.
You can fly without identification, but you'll be taken off into a room.
No.
And you'll be patted down.
The new law that's passed is you cannot. You have to have a real ID or a passport.
Well, I've traveled plenty of times without identification.
No.
But what if you travel somewhere and you lose your wallet? You can't get home?
Yeah, you can get stuff.
You have to live there Groundhog Day until
you have to go through extra security stuff.
No, that's what they do. They take you into a room, they pad you down, basically strip search you before you land on the plane because people are legally allowed to move freely within the country. It's domestic travel. But I've had it twice where I've lost my identification while I've been.
Are you sure you weren't just trying to get frisked?
Yeah, it seems like he's trying to, get the strip search.
Yeah, they found the ID during the strip search. It's like, why did you make us do this?
I love getting fisted.
They make me wait in a room, and then they come in. I'm bent over the table with my ass cheeks parted, and they go, "No, we believe you are who you said you are. It's all fine."
We saw your Netflix special.
You might want to check for drugs in my butthole. So. All right, I don't even know where we're at here. Okay.
We're talking Electoral College, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes.
My butthole was always going to come up.
Fair enough.
Always does.
Fair enough.
How are electoral votes divided? We already went over that. It's based on the number of representatives plus the 2 votes that you get. When did the Electoral College begin, and like how did that come about?
So the original Electoral College was something that the framers they had a lot of argumentation over in Philadelphia, and so they struggled with it a bit. And originally, they came up with a system where it would be divided up but based upon the states and the population, but also that electors would be wise, judicious individuals that would be able to use their discretion to vote for whom they thought would be the best president of the United States. And so originally electors were given 2 votes, and whoever received the most votes would become president, and whoever received the second most votes would become vice president.
Yeah.
That fell apart after the presidency of George Washington, because what happened was the rise of the two-party system. And so with that 2-party system, you had John Adams get the most votes in that 3rd election, and Thomas Jefferson, who is his political rival, get the second most votes. So you had these rivals cohabitating there as president and vice president. By the 3rd election, they ran as a ticket. And what happened was Thomas Jefferson and Aaron Burr tied, because their electors each cast 1 vote for each of them. So they tied, which meant that the election had to be thrown into the House of Representatives as a contingency election. They battled over this election, 35 ballots. By the 36th ballot, they finally came up and said, Jefferson is our guy. By the 1804 election, they realized we've got to change this original Electoral College with the 12th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution that says that an elector casts 1 vote for president, 1 vote for vice president. So that really cemented the power of political parties and the notion of a ticket. So kind of moving beyond that, you saw that that original Electoral College really fell by the wayside within a decade.
Wow.
And that's how the musical Hamilton was made, right? I just heard Aaron Burr.
It all sounds very complicated.
It is.
It is.
Well, wasn't...
Surely we can't just do a World's Strongest Man competition.
That was our last guest.
When people then owned slaves, wasn't that a huge part of the Electoral College and deciding the population and how many electors people got, because they were counting their slaves in the population, but the slaves didn't have the ability to vote? I may be messing up the details on that.
I know some information.
Okay,
I got some information. Okay, so black men were allowed to vote before women. There you go. Chuck that out there. Take that truth bomb, America.
He's got 7.105 now.
So black people got the vote first. Okay, I'll ask you, what country was the first country to give women the vote?
I'm going to say Australia.
Nah.
I don't know.
New Zealand. See? They've been troublemakers for bloody years, that country. They're constantly making mistakes.
Yeah, they have 0 COVID cases.
No, New Zealand were the first people to give women the vote.
Yeah.
Her name was Sharon. And there was 2 other blokes living in the country at the time.
She had a lot of opinions. Just let her fucking vote.
So yeah, I did forget to ask that question as slavery and as it refers to the Electoral College. So what Kelly was asking.
So what happened was, of course, she's absolutely right. Like, you know, in our Constitution, when you're talking about slaves as being 3/5 of a person, and it's just crazy that that's enshrined there, right? But that created an alliance during the debates between less populated states and slaveholding states. That's why they really wanted that Senate representation to be part of the Electoral College, because that would give them more representation, given that slaves were only 3/5. Listen to that, 3/5 of a human being.
Right. And doing 95% of the work.
Yeah.
At least.
That's not a good system.
Yeah. No.
Slavery was a bad system. We can agree on that.
I'd like to speak out against
breaking
slavery
news.
here. I don't know about that. I'll tell you something I do know about. Slavery is bad.
All right. All right.
It's not too hard to condemn.
Yeah.
So I asked Jim how the Electoral College, how they select the electors that vote. He said job interview, and they are paid. So yeah, how do they get selected, and then how are they compensated? But first, how do they get selected? Like
So each state has their number of electors, and in most states they run for that office. It's a position, so they run for that office at their state conventions. So their political parties are the ones who usually choose them. Either they run for it at a state convention, or a party committee at the state level will determine their electors. California and Pennsylvania are a little bit different. California in particular is really an interesting case because it's the only state where the congressional candidates, Democrat and Republican, get to choose who their electors are. And then they become the electors for their party. And I once had an elector in these surveys say, well, let me tell you how I became an elector. I went to a party meeting of my representative in California, and they said, well, who wants to be an elector? And everybody raises their hands, and they put everybody's name in a hat. They pick it out of a hat, and they say, oh, so-and-so is going to be an elector, which is mind-blowing. When you think about this is how we run our representative
They
system.
should have drawn straws or had a feed of power or something.
A what of power?
Just a feed of
So
strength.
any of us could be an elector in here.
Now, this one sounds silly. Is being an elector like your first step into politics to then becoming a senator or a governor and eventually the president? Or is it something completely different? Or is that something people get into politics?
So a couple of things. One, you cannot be a federal office holder. There's very few stipulations on being an elector, but you cannot be a federal office holder. Separation of powers issue. The second is that for most of these people, they are very strong partisans. They've been around the political party for many, many years. Many of them are like state party chairs or county party chairs. So it's seen as a reward for all of the work that they've done on behalf of the party. So these are, they look a lot like Congress. Can't be members of Congress.
And they don't get paid?
The only payment that they receive, they cannot get paid other than a per diem. So they get a per diem to attend the Electoral College meeting. I mean, they only meet for one day. That's it. They meet that one day about 6 weeks after you and I go and vote to cast their electoral votes. And in many states, they offer tickets to the inauguration to these electors
and
as well.
all the candy they can eat.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Let's see. They're in
They
for
treat
the
'em
candy
well.
corns.
Happens around October. They all meet.
It's spooky.
Yeah. They get everyone's Halloween candy.
Okay, Faithless Elector. This is where Jim gave up. He just, I don't know. He just kept saying, I don't know.
What do you think faithless means?
Nah, well, you did answer this one. They don't believe in God.
I don't believe in God.
This is why you were in the Supreme Court, right? This is the Faithless.
Yeah.
So what is a Faithless Elector?
So a faithless elector. So again, we're voting for these people, then they go off and cast their vote. And in a faithless elector, somebody who does not vote as expected. So let's say Joe Biden wins the state of California. You expect those 55 electors in California to all vote for Joe Biden. An elector that would not vote for Joe Biden would be called a faithless elector. We've seen faithless electors.
Wait a minute. I'm so confused now. So they don't have to vote for what we vote them in?
No.
They can just vote differently after we vote in the...
Yeah.
What the fuck's going on? Now we got some faceless guy telling me what's going on.
Yeah. Both. He's faceless and faithless.
Yeah, it'd be scary.
It's true. Yeah. It's and when I started doing research on electors, just trying to find out demographics, like who are these people? And I started finding out that a lot of them actually think about not voting as they're supposed to. 99% of them vote exactly as they're supposed to. Again, they're strong partisans. And in about 33 states, they have laws that take a pledge to vote as according to the popular vote of that state.
But then it's like pointless, right? I mean, if they have to do it, it's like just do the popular vote.
Yeah, just do the popular vote. We don't even need these people. Just have these figures, these imaginary figures, and then because then like someone doesn't like Trump, and then Trump wins Florida, for example, and then they go, oh, does he?
Yeah,
like that. Yeah, this is a dodgy system. Fair income.
Well, Brett Kavanaugh, interestingly, during the Supreme Court case, asked probably one of the most poignant questions. He just said, well, what's the point of having an elector at all? Like, why do we have these guys?
Yeah, what's the point of having an elector at all? Beer me.
Wait, was that a saying? Beer me?
I like beer.
I like beer.
I like beer.
Squee, pass me a beer.
Yeah. Chug us one of those cold ones.
What are we voting for? Get drunk.
So a faithless elector, though, all of their votes are on record. So if they did vote against what the state had decided, we could publicly berate them.
Well, okay. You ready for this one? I don't know. So in 2004 in Minnesota, there was an elector that was done. They did not attach their names to it. And an elector in Minnesota voted for John Edwards, who was running as the vice presidential nominee with John Kerry. He voted for John Edwards twice. So John Edwards actually has a vote for president of the United States in 2004, and no elector in Minnesota owned up to it. Immediately after that, the state of Minnesota passed a law saying if you vote contrary to expectations, if you vote as a faithless elector, and the vote now needs to be in public, then you can be removed as an elector.
What they actually said was, okie dokie then, here's what's going to happen here. No silly billies anymore.
I don't even remember John Edwards' name. I was like, that's who Kerry was running with? Okay.
Yeah.
I was like,
Too many Johns.
Yeah. And so I'm
Who
sorry.
was that bloke who was Hillary's vice president? Is he
Tim
down in
Kaine.
Mexico
Tim Kaine.
now, sunning himself?
No, he's Virginia.
That was his whole thing.
Haven't
was,
heard about him at all.
Yeah,
Really.
yeah.
Forgot.
He spoke a bit of Spanish,
Yeah.
and that's all he had going for him. Fuck, he was a wet blanket.
Hola.
Yeah. Like she's just go out there and speak Spanish, and he's like, hey, gracias. And then like
This is Montana. We don't speak that here.
He was fucking hopeless, that fucker.
I don't even think she won Virginia. Did she? I don't actually know. Yeah, that was his home state. That was
I think she did.
Oh, she did. Okay, well that was his whole purpose, probably, to give us that state. But so why were you in the Supreme Court? What was the case then?
So you're going to love this. In 2016, and I had been writing about this for quite a while because in these surveys of electors, I had found that a lot of them consider voting faithlessly. And I find that to be absolutely crazy. And I've been making the argument that we should, just go with whatever the popular will is in that state. We shouldn't have faithless electors. So as soon as Trump wins, there started this movement. You might recall, you even had Charlie Sheen and Lady Gaga and others kind of saying, Electoral College, save us. It was even on Saturday Night Live saying, we know you're an elector, save us from Trump. And so they knew that there was one last gasp effort to try and derail Trump from gaining the presidency. So a number of electors themselves started reaching out inside the Electoral College to convince enough electors, and I think it was 30, I think they needed 37 electors. If 37 electors had denied Republican electors, denied Trump their votes, then they would have thrown it into the House of Representatives. And they were trying to do that to not get Hillary Clinton to be the president of the United States, but to get some other Republican as the president of the United States, like John Kasich or Colin Powell or Mitt Romney. So these electors in Washington State, there were 4 electors in Washington State that voted for various people that were not Hillary Clinton. One of the votes actually went for Faith Spotted Eagle, who has a vote in the president. Faith Spotted Eagle.
Who's that?
Yeah.
She's a
Faith Spotted Eagle.
Native American and activist in Washington State.
Oh, that makes more sense.
I was like, I thought it was an actual eagle.
And then there was an elector in Colorado who wrote in John
Called
Kasich's
Mile
name.
High Ted.
And so they removed the elector in Colorado. They fined the electors in Washington State. They challenged it and said, but the Constitution allows us to be free agents. In fact, during this whole time period, they actually demanded, and there were a couple of Republicans that signed on to this too, Republican electors. They said, look, before we cast our Electoral College votes, we would like to get an intelligence briefing from the National Security Affairs so we could find out tell us about this Russian interference before we actually cast our Electoral College votes. Obama's Director of National Intelligence said, we're not going to give you that briefing, just go cast your votes. So the whole idea of electors being free agents went by the wayside for sure there. Yeah. Challenged it in court, the Supreme Court. They used some of the research that we had conducted, and they said that states are allowed to have laws to remove an elector who does not vote as expected. The problem with that, so If we want to remove an elector, we can do that. So try and remove that uncertainty. The problem is there's only 14 states that have those laws on the books right now. So there's over 400 electors that are still, there would be no punishment, no opportunity to remove them if they voted for Jefferies to be president of the United States.
Oh, am I on?
I'm
I'm not allowed. I wasn't born here.
Vote Jim Jeffries.
I feel like they've given me every right of being an American, but I'm a bit bitter about that.
You can be governor of the state.
Governor.
No, wait, you have to be here 5
That's
years.
easy enough to become governor. I could do that in me sleep.
Schwarzenegger.
I'd like to give president a go.
No, you wouldn't.
I think you would
Can
really
you imagine
hate
your
it.
schedule?
Yeah.
No,
the social media comments alone.
Yeah.
They don't like me.
Jeez, I'm getting a lot of hate on the web this week.
Why do they keep calling me fat?
I just hear a lot.
Like, Jim, we're talking about policy here. It's like, but this guy thinks I'm fat.
I don't think you should run for office at all.
Yeah. Allegedly, I'm only 10 pounds lighter than Donald Trump, and I'm 3 inches shorter.
Yeah.
It's just he's the guy who tells the truth.
He carries it different than us. Yeah.
Yeah, he's 10
I
pounds
didn't need to see
heavier
the
than me.
taxes. I need to see his feet on the scale.
Yeah.
That's what I need.
I don't think I want to see his feet.
Fair point.
He'd have some red feet, wouldn't he? Some orangey feet.
What if his feet had
Anybody
toupees?
that age's feet, I don't want to see. My feet look way worse than they did 10 years ago.
Oh, I have lovely feet.
You do?
I like
Yeah,
my
I do
feet.
have nice feet. Yeah, I don't do hard work.
Show him later.
There's no calluses.
You just
They're,
kick them up.
they're
on
soft as a baby's feet.
them. I think you're supposed to say ass, bottom.
No. They're not that soft.
We don't make references to babies' asses.
They're like
on this podcast.
babies.
bottom.
It's like baby's little wrinkly feet. It's like those ones. Yeah,
Yeah.
Cute.
All right, so how does that
same size. It's very hard to balance.
That's why he's bad at running.
It's like walking on peg legs.
So that was the last question. Then how does that, in this election, is that something we need to be worried about? Because when Trump is saying the election's rigged and blah, 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 and this and that, does that mean these electoral voters, I mean, is there a chance of that happening? Or are we supposed to be scared of that? Is another thing to put on the list of being scared of?
Oh my God! So there's a couple of things to maybe.
I thought you were going to
throw
say
out
no.
there.
I thought you were going to say no. We'd be like, all right, great.
Moving on. Thanks for
I
coming.
wish. The problem is now is like I've been getting calls, about crisis elections from media. That's not good. That's not good when you're reaching out to scholars about crisis elections and rigged elections and that kind of thing. It's not normal. And I can't say with certainty and say, yeah, that's nothing you need to worry about. So the possibility of those potential faithless electors is there. Another crazy scenario, so this, as we're taping it, we just found out that President Trump has tested positive for coronavirus. You've got two 70-year-olds running for, the highest office in the land. You got coronavirus on the loose. If God forbid something were to happen to either of them and they were to die after the election, if they were to die after the election, but before the Electoral College meets, in those states, and that's actually happened. That's actually happened.
I'm sorry, what date does the Electoral College meet?
They meet in mid-December. So they meet mid-December. So there's about 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Difference.
They're all there in ugly sweaters.
First they have their candy meeting, then their sweater party.
Yeah.
They're all there. Sorry, everyone. I'm carrying some electoral weight.
We'll do Secret Santa first, and then we'll vote for president.
Okay, so if one of them dies in between the election and the electoral, then what happens?
So if one of them were to pass away, if God forbid something like that were to happen, in those states where they bind an elector, so that Supreme Court case could come back to be a problem. Because then the elector, if they were bound to vote for one of them and that person won, then they'd have to vote for that person, right? Unless that state had some other law kind of saying, no, you can change your vote at that point. But I've not seen that. In that case, if I voted for candidate X and candidate X passed away, when Congress would go to count those votes, so they count their votes in early January. And if there are any disputed Electoral College votes, Congress gets to resolve that matter. If it was enough Electoral College votes given to a dead person, when Horace Greeley died, he was the one that died in between, the Congress did not count those votes for Horace Greeley. That could deny a candidate a majority of Electoral College votes.
When you say Congress, I'm sorry, the House, the Representatives, and the Senate both, or
the House.
Oh, just the House.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes, and if that were to happen, if no candidate then receives a majority, then you move into that House contingency procedure.
Yeah.
Where the House of Representatives would choose among the top 3 vote getters, and the Senate would actually choose who the vice president would be if there were a majority there.
So I got a headache.
So wait,
it's painful.
So
painful.
Yeah.
So we can have
if Trump dies, you could have.
I'm sure you don't know anything about Australian politics. Why would you? I'm not saying that you wouldn't know.
I don't.
Okay, but we had something happen in Australia called the dismissal, and that happened in the 70s. And so we had 2 prime ministers, and we have our 2 parties are Labor and Liberal, and there's one left, one right, similar system, a 2-party system. I believe, I might have this the wrong way around, I believe the Labor government was in, and then the Governor General. Now, the Governor General is the Queen's representation, right? And they're meant to have no power at all. They're just a figurehead. But somewhere in the fine print, it said that the Queen's representation can just fire the Prime Minister. And they just moved governments. We moved from Liberal to Labor or Labor to Liberal. Jesus. We just, literally one person went, just to give you an example, when you can fuck off Republicans, we're having Democrats, and it was just in the middle of their term. Is there anything that can happen like that over here? Because that's still meant, they still talk about it in Australia as being this bizarre thing.
In the middle of the term,
I would not say at that level to have the one person, but a concern would be Congress if they were to have that contingency election. You wouldn't even vote by however many representatives you have in the Congress. So it could be that Democrats could control the Congress, but you vote state by state by a state delegation in that contingency procedure.
So you have more checks and balances. Yeah, a bigger vote.
But
it can happen.
So let's say,
No, go ahead.
Let's say Biden wins, and then after the election, Trump dies. Then that means it would go to the House, and that's Democrat. Well, it depends from that. It still would be this election. So the Democrats would most likely pick Biden, but then the Senate is still Republican, so they would probably pick Pence, or they could pick whoever they wanted to.
Well, if let's say there was a tie, and in fact, all it would take is 2 or 3 states to change from 2016 to have an Electoral College tie.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Forgot to ask
then neither president or vice president would have a majority. And that's when you would go to that House for the president, and then the Senate would be for the vice president. By the polling that we're at right now, it would be the new Congress and the new Senate that would have this contingency procedure. The House would still be controlled by Democrats, most likely, but the number of delegations, so there might be 1 more delegation or 2 more delegations that would be Republican. The Senate very well could end up in the hands of Democrats. Okay, so they're polling much better in the Senate than they are than Republicans are. And so what we could see is a Trump get selected in the House and Harris gets selected in the Senate.
Wow.
Now I don't wish death upon anybody or anything like that, but what happens if before the election, say 2 days before the election, Trump dies of COVID? Does Pence just take over right then again? Do we delay anything, or what happens in that? Because that's a scenario that could happen, or if Biden dies, like right before.
I don't think the vote ever gets delayed.
Look, this is coming out in 11 days, just so everybody. But Trump's sick now with COVID. We don't know how sick he is, but if he died before the election at all, if he dies before the election, very close to the election, does the vice just take over, or is there another thing that was a stalling thing, or what happens there?
I think they would still have the election, and I think that they would probably still stay committed to their tickets. But like I said, some of those problems might arise when the Electoral College would actually meet and who they could vote for at that point. My guess is that there'd be enough uncertainty there that if it were Trump that were to pass away, that they would say Mike Pence, if indeed Trump were to win the Electoral College, that they would then move that over to Pence as the vice president.
And Pence would have to pick a vice president very quickly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we did an episode on cryptocurrency, and this is only slightly less confusing than that, I would say.
I mean, I feel like you've explained it so well.
No, you have.
It's
You have
just
explained
like,
it.
The fact that this even exists is so fucking mind-blowing because it doesn't make any sense that it doesn't make any sense that we're using this.
Do you prefer the Electoral College, or do you think we should just have a popular vote?
So when I started studying this, I didn't think too much about it. The more I have studied the Electoral College, the more complicated you can see that it is. And I feel like, a basic requirement of any electoral process is that people understand it. And the fact that so few people understand it, that's why I graded you on a curve. You got the gist.
Yeah.
And
like if I can't understand it, God help us all.
Yeah. Who could?
It's a complicated process, and it's hard to claim legitimacy when 3 million more people vote for your opponent.
Right.
And so to kind of move to that direct popular vote, every vote counts. And the reality is, under the current Electoral College process, a lot of the argument is that if we were to move to a direct popular vote, the candidates would only go to New York and California. Well, as it is right now, candidates aren't going to any of those states with just 3 Electoral College votes. Yeah. They don't those states at all. They don't do any advertising there. If you had a direct popular vote, you'd see candidates moving all throughout the country.
Wait a minute, I live in California. You're saying we've got no advertising here? What are the other fucking states up to?
No, just the ones with 3.
Oh, you don't advertise to those hillbillies.
Yeah. Okay. Making new fans. Because it is great when you go to like Iowa, for instance, where I guess there's 4 or 5, I don't know how many. It's like you go there and when you look on election day, that like Iowa usually goes to a Republican a lot of the times. But then you look at the election, it's like 1.4 million for a Republican, 1.2 for a Democrat. So it's still like
it's close.
It's not like the whole state is red. It's like most states are pretty down the middle.
Even Texas is getting closer and closer.
Even
Georgia too.
Even California, there's still like millions of people that vote Republican in California.
We need to move the border in a bit.
Oh, from the agriculture?
Yeah, just around Fresno and Bakersfield and just sort of
Orange County.
Orange County can be its own state.
Yeah. The biggest echo chamber in the world. All right, so here's a part of the show we have called Dinner Party Facts, where the expert gives us a fact, obscure or interesting, that the audience can use to impress people on their knowledge of the subject of the Electoral College. You got any interesting facts about the Electoral College people could throw out at like a dinner party or a bar or something?
I got a couple, and you can determine how interesting they are. But
we'll have a vote. My vote's worth 3. Kelly's is worth 2. Jack's worth 1. Right. Forrest's worth 2. Corner boy, you get 2.
Would I get 1? I'm a state though.
Nice.
Wow,
shit.
Right.
Corner boy's coming up.
But in Pennsylvania, the candidates get to choose who their electors are. And in Pennsylvania, one year, Franco Harris, NFL superstar from the Pittsburgh Steelers, Hall of Famer, served as a presidential elector in the state of Pennsylvania for Barack Obama. Bill Clinton.
That's good because he doesn't have concussions or anything like that. Yeah. We want him making this.
He signed a certificate.
CTE has not affected this vote.
Yeah. Bill Clinton actually got to cast an Electoral College vote for Hillary Clinton in 2016 as an elector from New York.
That's legal?
Yeah, how's that a thing?
Yeah.
No, that is interesting.
I mean, she won New York. She won New York, though. Yeah. She won New York, but still.
I know, but why is Bill just...
Because he's Bill. I mean, he's a former president.
You think a former president wouldn't be allowed to have this job?
I don't, yeah.
He seduced him with a saxophone.
All right.
I haven't seen him play saxophone since he got elected. It's been 20-something years. I haven't seen the man play saxophone. And then Jack's like this. Hey-oh!
You guys remember that?
Slam dunk.
I don't.
You got any Monica Lewinsky jokes there, Jack?
No, those are outdated.
He was probably hiding a stained dress. Whoa!
Be here all week.
My mom did work in the White House when Clinton was in office.
Yeah, no, people know that. Kelly's mom used to do like parties and functions
planned the parties.
and shit. Whenever there was parties, she was there blowing up balloons and all sorts.
I don't think her mom was blowing up balloons.
Yeah.
She was telling people.
I was worried when you said she was there blowing, and I was like, oh, God, where's he going with this?
Balloons.
And then you're like, up balloons. Got it.
No, your mum, I've been to one of your mum's parties. She knows how to organise her little...
She was great. I've done more tours of the White House than I ever wanted in my life.
Lucky.
2.
So you have those are 2 facts?
Yeah, I think those.
Yeah, they're good ones. They're good ones.
They're good.
Bill Clinton cast a vote. Look at that.
And Franco Harris. Was he the Immaculate Reception? I don't know. I think so.
He was the Immaculate Reception.
Yeah.
I once had an elector. I had electors come to Little Ohio Northern University in Ada, and I had them give a little presentation. And one of those electors kind of wanted to befriend me. My wife was pregnant at the time, and she ended up coming back and giving us like my daughter's favorite blankie that she still has like 15 years later, if that is important to anybody.
Yeah, that's a sweet
They're
story.
real people.
They're real people. That's if you take anything away from the podcast, they're real people.
All right,
And that applies to anyone.
So we want to thank you for being here, Dr. Robert Alexander. Again, his Twitter handle is @onuprof. His book is called Representation in the Electoral College. We have a link to that. We also have an image of it. And then you're doing a series of articles for CNN now, right? Yeah, we can put a link up for that about the Electoral College and voting and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool. It means you're an expert still. We just need to let people know you're an expert on the show. But thank you for being here today.
Thank you for being on the show, Doctor. We very much appreciate it. I think I learned some things, but I may have to listen to this back to get it all. But very interesting, ladies and gentlemen. If you're ever at a party and someone bothers you about the Electoral College, go. I listen to the Jim Jefferies podcast, and I still don't know about that. Next week,
I disagree. I learned a ton.
Oh yeah. Also, sorry, I forgot. Please follow us on Instagram for us. IDCAT podcast on Instagram.
And go to the YouTube channel, Jim Jefferies.
Yep. Subscribe, rate, review. 5 stars only.